Hello and welcome everybody to the High Return Real Estate Show. This is the show for heavy hitters, and I am pleased to be here with one of my favorite heavy hitters and business partners, Mr. Jack Gibson. How you doing, Jack?
Doing good, Jackie.
Don't have too much cabin fever right now, or what?
I'm actually enjoying it, to be honest. I mean, I'm spending more time with my two boys than I've probably spent the last, year. So I'm not I'm not against this. It's fine.
Yeah, it's good. There's definitely, if you haven't figured it out, we're recording this during the coronavirus pandemic, and I too have found that there's been some opportunity to catch up and get to know myself a little bit better too, which is always valuable. And today we're going to talk with a really, really amazing guest who's
Jackie,
really.
Sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, I just found out my wife was a teacher for 5 years, about 10 years ago. And her favorite color is purple.
Okay.
So I didn't know this. I didn't know.
You just found this out.
Yeah. I didn't know any of that. So it's been great to get to know her.
Wow.
I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Okay.
But we really have connected, as a family. So it's from that aspect. I mean, I don't know. I always think about anytime there's adversity, there's always a seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. So we're going to all together collectively, each person is going to have their own unique story, but there's going to be a lot of good that will come out of it as well.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. And I don't think that the way that this entire planet was organized prior to this was sustainable. So I think that we are, we're moving into a situation where we understand it's time to level up. And I think that that is going to really happen. And which is a good segue into this actual episode, because this episode is a lot about leveling up. And one of the things that I've been finding really great about the virus is it really separates the people that are bigger, forward, positive thinkers from the ones that just say the sky is falling. There really isn't too many people in between anymore. You're almost forced to choose one of these camps. So I'm really excited about this episode because the guests that we've got on today, we're going to talk about scaling your mindset along with your portfolio, because they very, very much go hand in hand. And we're going to just take a quick break and we're going to be on to introduce this guy. I'm very excited, so stay with us. Welcome to the High Return Real Estate Show, the podcast for heavy hitters. Two men, one mission. It's time to build your empire. All right, welcome back, everybody. And today I have the great pleasure of introducing Mr. Agostino Pintus. Wonderful.
How's it going, guys?
Agostino?
Yes. I am on. Thank you guys so much for having me on. I really, really appreciate it. Very excited to be here. Awesome.
Yeah, well, we wanted to repay the favor. We were on your show a while back, and we had such a good time and made such a good connection with you that we really wanted to have you on our show and know that you provide a lot of value. And I want to just, I'm going to read a little bit from your bio, but Agostino is a former Inc. 500 technology chief, had great success until he failed in a spectacular fashion that kicked off his 10 dark years. We're going to talk about that. He was rudderless, with no directional, and financially broken. And it wasn't until a friend introduced him to the power of buying large real estate deals that changed the entire course of his life. He ended up building a real estate portfolio, partnering on over $40 million of deals in 28 months. Holy cow. And there's no slowing down. Today, he helps people get into real estate deals of their own and builds their wealth. So welcome so much, Agostino.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. So, yeah, it was very dark times, to tell you that.
Yeah, but, I hate to start with the dark stuff, but that's obviously a pretty good starting point. Tell us how that whole transition happened from, technology chief and going into that dark hole.
Sure. Well, it actually started even way before that, when I was a kid. I was, 9, 10 years old. I was, from the first time I laid eyes on a computer, the old Commodore PET, I decided, you know what? I need to get my hands on that computer. I need to learn everything I can about it. I just became obsessed about technology, right? About computers. And I was writing code by the time I was 10 years old. Just sit there, jam out code. That's what I was doing. And yeah, well, but you know what though? I wanted to become a entrepreneur. I wanted to own my own software company. I wanted to build my own company. I wanted to do things on my own, right? As a first generation Italian kid growing up in Canada. And you know what though? Sometimes our friends and family, they'll push us in a certain direction or try to tell us that, doing something on your own is a dumb idea or something along those lines. And that's what happened to me. So instead of taking the entrepreneur route, I ended up going to work for corporate America, and was successful. I started running these large IT groups and working my way up the corporate ladder. Back in the I'd say mid 2000s, I started getting into the single family space, duplexes, small multifamily, that kind of thing, right? And but the reasoning I did that was for all the wrong reasons. Most people get into real estate. Most people get into real estate because they want to protect their money. They want to protect their wealth. They want to have like a lot of extra cash flow so they can hand it off to their kids. I was living in fear. Here I am, an Inc. 500 CIO making bank, and I was still living in fear. I was afraid. Oh my God, what if they fire me? What if I get canned? That was the mindset that I had, right? It's always centered around fear.
And scarcity.
Scarcity mindset. That was the killer. Yeah. And it ultimately led to my own demise, right? In terms of, I was trying to build this portfolio of single family homes as quickly as I could. And there just wasn't enough time. The inevitable happens. Company comes in, hands me the box, pack up your stuff, get lost, you're done. Even though the company was doing great, even though I was doing great for the company, I was able to help them scale and grow the technology. They just decided we're making a change, and that's it. That's what happens when you leave your fate in the hands of someone else. This is what happens, right?
Yeah.
So, but that's the thing though too. I because of that scarcity mindset, I let other people define what I'm about, and that's what kicked off those 10 dark years. Right? I just floated from job to job to job, scrambling to find the next job. I mean, I was sending out 500 resumes a week. 500. If there's an email address, they're getting my resume. You guys probably got my resume somewhere in your old email address there. I'm telling you, if someone had an email address, they got my resume. It was ridiculous. It was stupid, right? Dumb. Because I was rudderless. I had no goal. Everything was just like hurry, try to find something, anything. That was the mindset that was instilled in me when I was a kid. If you're not working, you're useless. Your boss, even though you helped them build this great company, you know what? Get out. You're useless to us now. Get out. That kind of like it really strengthens that scarcity mindset, is what it did. And for those 10 dark years, it's all I kept on doing was floating from job to job to job. And eventually I made my way back to working at a normal company. I was able to, I made a decision to fix my life and get it back in order, like straighten things out, get away from all the bad people I was surrounding myself with, and really clean up and really start educating myself with self-help is really what it was. And I was able to get my way back into corporate, but I still wasn't happy. I still that the scarcity whisper was still there. So always.
Can I interject? Because I got a quick question.
Yeah.
Do you agree or disagree? The reason that you initially got fired from that great technology job where you made a bunch of money was because you were already manifesting those thought patterns.
I would say so. Yeah. I mean, you really have to watch what we let into our brains, what we let into our thoughts. And you're absolutely right, Shecky. It's more of those things that it was whatever you think becomes real. And these are things that, I'm sure that your audience, you guys have heard this before too, right? Back then, I was a young guy in my early and mid 30s, something like that. I was not taking care of my how can you say, my spiritual needs, if you will, right? I wasn't doing any of that stuff. I was getting up early. I was doing exactly what I was told to do. You wake up early, you go to work, you work 12 hours, you slave for this company, you make them great, and you go home, eat lunch, and watch Game of Thrones or whatever's on TV till 11 o'clock, and then you just repeat that over and over again until you're used up. I was not working out. I was not doing self-help, and I was manifesting the wrong thoughts. But that's exactly right. I was telling myself, you're going to get fired, you're going to get fired, you're going to get fired, you're going to get fired. You repeat that over and over and over again. Guess what happens? You're going to get fired. That's what's going to happen.
Right.
But that's exactly right. And even though the company was very successful, they would never have gotten to where they got had I not come along to fix their tech. Didn't matter at all. None of it mattered, So
you hinted at starting down the road of self-development, personal development. How did that take shape and form? What kind of stuff did you gravitate towards?
Early on, it was, believe it or not, guys like Ty Lopez, and Grant Cardone. Then it was T. Harv Eker. Then it was some of Tony Robbins, but I would say more T. Harv Eker was a big influence in the early days. T. Harv Eker and yes, to some extent Ty Lopez as well. On the understanding cognitive biases, understand the mindsets and how important that is, and how human psychology plays a very big role in how we are as humans that roam this earth, right? When you understand how the human brain functions, when you understand what the cognitive biases are, you're able to craft your messages to people, right? Whether it's writing, verbal, visual, and all these different things, craft your message in a way that they understand and get through to them. And when you're able to do that, you could do a lot of good for a lot of people, and that's the kind of stuff that I've really immersed myself in to understand that part, how to sell. Selling became a real big thing for me. Prior to this, I thought salespeople were all slime bags, if you're in sales, ooh, sales, gross, get away from me, oh, good, another sales guy's calling me, great, wonderful. It's always negative, right? We're all in the sales business. Every single person listening to this podcast right now is in the sales business. If you have a spouse, every single day you're selling that spouse as to why they're still married to you or why they're still with you, right? Every single day. And if you're not, you should be. You should be reminding them, this is why you married me.
Yeah, and if you're not, you're likely not to stay married. So
that's exactly right. It's a sales job.
Would you mind, just for the listener's sake, going back, because you use this term cognitive bias.
Yes.
And I think that most people understand the word bias, but I want you to just kind of explain that a little bit more so people understand exactly what you're talking about.
Sure. Cognitive biases are shortcuts, mental shortcuts. Think of it as also known as heuristics, okay? And your brain is designed to conserve energy, right? And it wants to conserve energy as a whole, as the whole mechanism of a body wants to conserve energy. This is why many people would rather sit in front of the couch and watch Game of Thrones as opposed to getting out and, say, going for a run, because you're able to conserve energy by sitting around and with the remote control, right? The brain is convincing you this is what you need to be doing. Because if you don't do this, then an animal can run up from behind the couch and attack you, right? So it's all about conserving energy for when you really need it. But this is the whisper of 10,000 generations that's embedded into that software and these cognitive biases, right? Because many of these cognitive beliefs, these belief systems are all created and all programmed by society, by your parents, by your friends, by your school, all of it, right? The 40-hour work week, for instance, where did that come from? Henry Ford defined that like last century. Prior to that, there was no such thing as a 40-hour work week. People just worked as long as it took to get the job done. But now we're told it's 40 hours, lunch break, 2 15-minute breaks. This is how the work week is, right? That's a cognitive bias, if you will, right? It's a belief. It's a belief system that we're programmed. And the thing is that there are many people that totally ignore it. And I had to learn all this. And once I understood how that stuff works, not just the 40-hour week, but also understanding how these cognitive beliefs really shape us and really force us down certain paths, I was able to realize I can change all this, you know, and that's exactly what I did. I just changed the entire belief system. I mean, it took a while, it took years to change it. This is not something you just do overnight, but it takes time. It takes a lot of time.
So what were your best methods and tips for doing that?
You know, one of the things that I'm really big on, I still do to this very day, is I journal and I write my affirmations, right? So those are the two things. So wake up early, go to the gym, at least before the coronavirus anyway. Go to the gym,
Gotta miss the gym.
but it's physical fitness. You know, you condition your body, and you're doing this early in the morning before your phones are ringing, before the email starts popping, before all that. You're taking care of this early on. You get home, you get your cup of coffee, and you journal. What did you do yesterday? What did you learn yesterday? How did yesterday go? Was it good? Was it bad? What happened? You know, and then write down your affirmations. These affirmations are what you need to do to program program your mind and program your self-conscious, right? Your subconscious, right? So, and by that I mean you're writing down your affirmations as if it's already happened. I own 12,000 units producing 12% cash on cash return. I have $200,000 in passive income. I have a great team of people that work for me, and I'm able to live remotely. I have a home in Miami. I have a home in Colombia. I mean, you're writing it as if it's already happened. And what happens is that when you program your subconscious, it starts becoming true. Your subconscious starts finding ways to make all this happen. I know it sounds all foo-foo, sounds nutty, but I'm telling you that this kind of stuff works. It's worked for me up until now. You know,
yeah, I 100% agree with you, and that's fantastic. And for the listeners, here's a way for you to understand how true this really is. We all know people that are blatant liars. We all know them, right? And we see that when a lie is told to us or to anybody else by these people with great conviction, because that's usually how they do it, and it's said over and over again, repeated with great conviction, it doesn't take long for that liar to believe that that lie is their truth. It's the same concept.
That's right.
So I love that you're doing that stuff, you know, because it's, I used to do it and I got away from it. And I don't know if you even know this, Jack, but I used to do affirmations about saying what a great partner you are and how blessed we are and what we're doing with our business and how we're growing and all that stuff. And this is a great reminder because I have gotten away from it. And now that we all have more time on our hands, I'm going to get back to it. I think it's a fantastic thing.
But you know what though? But that's exactly it. You know, when you manifest, you talk about your partner, your business partner, you talk about your spouse. My spouse is super happy. My son is friends with the most powerful children on the planet. You know, that kind of thing. I mean, what your brain does is it finds ways to make that true. Like one of the things I have is the Tesla Cybertruck. I pre-ordered that already. As soon as it came out, I pre-ordered it immediately, right? And as soon as I pre-ordered it, I started writing it down. My Tesla Cybertruck is here, and I'm driving it around. Now, every time I drive down the street, I see Teslas everywhere, right? Before, you'd never notice them, but now the reticular activating system that everyone has inside your brain is looking for that because you told yourself this is what you want to see. We all have this mechanism. We just have to use it. You know, it's all there. But it's really overcoming generations of being told that you have to go to work and you have to go to work at some place you hate and you have to do this for 40 hours a week because I said so.
Yeah.
Because someone said so. That's the reason, you know.
Do you think it falls in line with, those that were on welfare? They seem to have like passed it down from one generation to the next, and then wealth, that's, the success, that type of mindset is just kind of passed down from one generation to the next. And the only way for them to really break out of being in the welfare mentality is what you're saying, right? Is a complete, total reprogramming.
Well, that's the thing, Jack. I mean, that's 100% it. When you're raised in that environment, you're inside that bubble, and you cannot see beyond it, right? And the only time you see beyond it is when you're watching TV and you see some guy jump out of a Lamborghini, and you're like, wow, that's awesome. I wish I could do that. And anybody can. You can do it. The issue is that it requires the repetitive action over and over and over again, not for days, not for weeks, not for months, but we're talking years. I mean, it took me years to get out of that scarcity mentality and go into the abundance mindset now. Before we jumped on this call, we're talking about a giant deal that I'm working on in Cleveland here. It's massive. It's going to be over $100 million when it's completed. 5 years ago, are you kidding me? My God. I mean, there's no way I would have even thought about doing anything remotely close to that. Not even close, right? But it took me realigning my mindset, writing down. I have great partners that the same way you guys do it. I have super partners that are great, and they stick to their word, and they raise capital very, very easily. That kind of thing. That's one of mine too. One of my affirmations. It's all manifested dependent on what I'm telling myself every single day. That is how it's done, and I'm telling you, this stuff works. That's that stuff. And one other thing that I do, a third thing, is my vision board. I have my vision board. I have copies of the vision board all over the house. I have a one giant one. And I took a picture of it. I keep on my phone, and I actually printed off smaller versions. I have one on the refrigerator, one in the living room. So, I mean, fortunately, my wife supports me with all this stuff. She doesn't drive her crazy with little pieces of my vision board all over the place. But that's what it takes. I mean, that's what it took. And that's what it takes now to keep it going, and especially now in these trying times, focus is the most important thing you can have, especially these days, to keep you on the path, because I think things are going to get a little bit worse before it gets better, so focus is 100% needed.
Yeah. It's a tough commodity right now, focus. There's a lot of really huge distractions going on.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit more about the practical side too, because we've obviously spent, and thank you for all those insights, and I love what you're up to. And so how does that play into, we've talked about more the things that you can do and the mindset. How did that play out into the practical world of getting into real estate, and how did that evolve for you?
The practical ways actually were giving up TV. Believe it or not, TV is a dumping ground of garbage, right? It's another way to continue the programming, keep it conditioned, right? Just like I said, in the old ways, it was me coming home. First thing I would do, go to the refrigerator, get a snack, something that's probably not good for me, and turn on the TV and sit on my ass and watch TV, right? I'm not the only guy that did that. Everyone did this. It's either that, playing video games, drinking too much alcohol, all that stuff, right? I quit all that stuff. I mean, I'm not saying you have to become a priest or something, but all I'm saying is that TV, for instance, television is not good. It's not good. It continues the cycle that you're trying to break out of, right? Up until, again, middle of last century, TV was not a big thing. Now it's everywhere, and it's all programming. And they call it programming, television programming, because they're programming us to buy stuff that we don't need, that we don't want, perhaps, because they know all the tricks as well. They know what colors to use. They know what to say, how to say it, when to say it, and how to really manipulate the chemicals in your brain to get you to act and spend money on something that you don't even need. They're excellent at it, right? And it perpetuates the vision, so to speak, that you've been told your entire life, and how people, they're not able to achieve their complete goal because they're stuck watching that television program saying that, you know what, you're working right now, you're making $100,000 a year, you're fine, you don't worry about that, you're rich, you know, that kind of thing. And that's been perpetuated, and it keeps it rolling. You know, and it's just that to me is probably one of the biggest things. That giving up TV, giving up all that, the party lifestyle, and going more and spending all that time on self-education, on reading, listening to books, listen to a book a week right now. You know, so that's what I'm doing these days, and just expanding my mindset towards that, and then working my ass off. That's it.
That's fantastic. And I, think that there's probably people listening to this episode right now or watching and going, shit, I'm never going to do that. And okay. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it does take a certain amount of gumption to turn the TV off, to say, where am I going to place my attention? Honestly, I gave up TV 20 years ago, and probably the best thing I ever did. I still sneak in an occasional Netflix here and there. There's some, good shows every once in a while, but it's hard. This is not necessarily something that's easy, right?
No.
So, I think when you get into the sort of the sales of personal development, the gurus make it seem easy.
Yeah,
but
well, they have to make it
because
easy,
you
right?
got to sell programs and whatever, and you got to get people in, and I get that. But the reality is, if you're going to change your belief systems and habits and things like that, you got to really, really want it. You got to say, okay, what is it that I really wanting to create for myself, my family, my loved ones, my circle, my life? And how much of a level of a commitment am I willing to give in order to be able to achieve that? I mean, look, you don't wake up one day and just go, well, shit, I think I'm just going to put together a $5 million deal or $100 million deal in downtown Cleveland. Like it doesn't,
right.
You don't just fall out of bed and have that happen. I mean, there's a progression to it.
Yeah, that's the hard part, I mean, but you're absolutely right. I mean, we do a coaching program too, so I don't start off with telling them about NOI and cash on cash returns or anything else like that. It all starts with mindset, it all starts with that. You have to give up TV. What do you mean? No more Game of Thrones? That is correct. No more Game of Thrones. You're done. I mean, what we have to realize is that every single minute is a gift. It's a minute that we're never going to get back. Every single one, right? If we waste that minute watching TV, making someone else wealthy, or if we invest that minute into our families, into ourselves, to grow something that we maybe to earn some passive income that way, then that's time well spent. That's time well invested, as opposed to just doing nothing, just keeping your eyes glued to a screen and wasting that time that you're never going to get back. Never. Once it's gone, it's gone. You can always get back more money. You can never get back more time, and maybe it's because I've gotten older, and you realize that time is running out. Time is running out for all of us. We're all going to die.
So, everything you're saying is, I mean, I've been doing personal development for the last 20 years. It's ingrained into our my other company in multi-level marketing. Those are personal development companies disguised as selling products, right? So everything you're saying is certainly created a lot of success for you know, our family. What's talk specifics in terms of your real estate, you know, portfolio and what you're doing right now, and how do you see Corona affecting you? Dive into where we're at in terms of cash flowing real estate.
Well, you know, I'll rewind it just for a second and take it forward. But, you know, I started doing the single family thing, then the small multifamily thing, like I mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not know that I could syndicate deals, right? I didn't even know that was a thing. And syndicating deals means I can leverage other people's money, right, from investors. Say I find a deal, investor puts down, I'm able to convince the investor, hey, you know what, if you invest $100,000 with me into this project, you're going to be a partner, we'll be partners, and you'll get a return, and all of us will make money. You know, turns out to be a super great idea, you know. And fast forward, started doing multifamily. Now I'm focused just on multifamily now. I gave up all the single family stuff. I have one single family home left, and everything else though is all multifamily. And as I sit here talking to you guys here in April, right now, all the large deals that we have, so I'm GP in about 700 units right now, general partner on 700 units. Majority of them are larger deals. I'm not that concerned about the larger deals at this point. They're still all cash flowing, and because you have scale, you know, it's like even on a 5 or 150 unit deal, like if I lose 10%. You know, hell, even 15, 20% of the tenant base, it'll still cash flow, you know, meaning it'll still cash flow to pay the mortgage, and, you know, taxes and expenses, but maybe not produce a return. But I mean, right now, everything's at 95% occupancy across the board, right? So we're okay for the time being, but it's only April, you know, really this is the first month. We're going to see how things go forward in the coming months, but like I said, the large deals are fine. The smaller ones are the ones that I often worry more about, because to take a 15% or 20% hit on a 28 unit property, I mean, now you're in the red, you know. So that's the thing with small assets like that. So on larger assets, it's not as big a concern. They're much more fault tolerant than some of the smaller stuff is, you know. But yeah, like I said, there's all the stimulus coming out. We're talking about it in the green room before we jumped on here. A lot of the stimulus coming up, a lot of the government propping it up. That in itself brings about a very different set of concerns, because someone's got to pay for all this.
Right.
So that's scary. That's scary.
Children,
but, you know,
children's children, they're going to pay for it.
Yeah. But that's why real estate, you know, there is nothing like real estate. Nothing like getting all the tax benefits. You get the appreciation of the asset. You get the depreciation. You get to write off in terms of offsetting your income. If you use some tax deferred money, that you get to grow your tax deferred account, basically tax free. I mean, it's super. It's great. There's not a single asset anywhere on this planet that you could do this, and not even in terms of country. The United States is the only place you can do it, if you think about it, right? Where a bank will give you 80% of the money needed to buy a property. It's crazy, right? It's nuts. You know, they won't give you money to buy their stock, but they'll give you money to buy a cash flowing asset. It's awesome.
Yeah. No, it's great. So I guess I'm looking at the clock and going, God, we've been talking for a long time and it's been great. I want to ask you our favorite question, which going to put you on the spot a little bit here. What is the question that we didn't ask you that we should have asked?
All right. You know, I think you guys kind of already asked this, but maybe not as direct. And what does it take to be successful in the world of real estate? I think it's probably, we talked around it, but we didn't talk specifically about it, you know. And I would say like we touched on, it's all mindset. I mean, the mindset, that's where it all begins and that's where it all ends. The mindset is who you are and what you're about. And if there's no commitment to achieving more, to being more than what you are today, you can never be successful in the world of real estate. You know, it's going to be very, very difficult to build any success at it. I really honestly believe that for most people that are listening right now, you are capable of doing more. You can do more, and you really have to ask yourself, and ask myself every day, am I living to my full potential? Is this the best I got? Is this it? Or can I do better? You know, and if I could do better, then I better put my all into it, you know, and that's the thing. I mean, I think that's one thing that when I was growing up as a kid and grew up in this small town Canada, no one, you know, my parents never really challenged me that way. My teachers never really challenged me that way. They would often, if you made a mistake in school, you're an idiot. You screwed up.
Yeah.
You know, it was more like that as opposed to, you know, let's reinforce what you did right and get you the help you need to achieve more. You know, it's funny how that works too, isn't it? You know, and nowadays I rely on CPAs and attorneys and inspectors to take care of my properties and to really make sure, you know, to keep me out of trouble. That's being a good manager. That's being a good partner, you know. But if I did that in school, if I relied on other people, I'd be cheating, right?
Right.
It's funny how that works. It's funny how that works. But anyway,
Right.
You know, I love what you said, and I want to just put an asterisk on one thing. You talked about mindset is who you are, and I think what people don't really understand, and it took me the longest time to understand this, is that you can wake up tomorrow if you want to and be a different person. That's a tough concept to grasp. To say, you know, I can be a real estate mogul. I can be successful. I can be in shape. I can be healthy. Well, you know, whatever it is that you want to be. It just requires some work and requires shaking off some programming. But I think that's the starting point, is to even just have the belief system that says, you know, hey, you know what? I can push the big red reset button and start over. I can be whatever the F I want to be.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, Shecky, when I was living in New York, I was working at a big high rise in New York City, right near Times Square. And I was working on 27th floor. I mean, things got so bad for me. I mean, it was terrible. I'm not going to get into how terrible it was. It was really bad. I mean, at one point I thought about, you know, I'm right here on the 27th floor. I can get to the roof from here. It's, you know, one more level up. And I could just jump off here and be done with all this. I mean, that crossed my mind. That's how bad it was. That's how broken I was, right? And I'm never going to that place again. I don't mean New York City. I mean, the darkness in my mind, it was all clouded with a bunch of these false beliefs that I was unable to reconcile, right? In terms of, you know, me wanting to be an entrepreneur my entire life. And now I have to go do this thing for these other people that I don't even like, working with a bunch of people that don't want to be there either. And this is what I'm doing now. I couldn't reconcile it. And aside from that, having all the other issues in my life, it's like, what was the point? I mean, that's how hopeless I felt. Right. And the key was to break out of that cycle. That's what it was, you know, and really self-educating, you know, self-development. That was really the tipping point right there.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks for sharing that. Obviously there's going to be a lot of people that listen to this that want to find you. So if you could share with us, how do people find you? I know you do some coaching and you do some partnering and some really cool stuff in the real estate space. What's the best place for people to see what you're up to?
Sure, bulletproofcashflow.com, you know, the website. We're also on Facebook. We got a Facebook group too. Go ahead and join the group. You know, we're doing a lot of stuff there. We got more stuff coming out as well on Instagram, LinkedIn. You know, friend me on Facebook too. You know, so it's always love hearing from people. Right?
So
always looking to help people.
Bulletproof Cashflow, all one word, .com, just like it sounds, just like it's spelled.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, brother. Thank you.
Thanks so much for being on.
Much
you bet, guys.
your insights, and it's always great to connect with you. And thank you, listeners. And if you liked what you heard, you know, give us a thumbs up, give us 5 stars, or just send us an email and tell us how amazing we are.
We could use it. We could all use a little encouragement, right?
Always. Yeah, that's a wrap. Thanks a lot.